Hello, my friends. I'm so excited. Eva Baca Currents here, the one punch superstar. And today we have such an amazing woman. Not only is she the president, you know, okay, so sucking up a little bit, let's say. No, she's also a friend, and she is the president of Achieve TV. She is the creator, she is the producer and host of um, Own Your Own Wellness. She's been an industry leader for the last decade. She supports people in their life transformations, mindset shifts, nutritional changes, exercise, and stress reduction. She was a co author with myself in the Achieve Wellness book, and she is just an overall great person. Hey, welcome, Julie.
Thank you so much for having me today, Eva. It's such a nice surprise to see you.
I am so glad that you decided to come on. I've been waiting since the very beginning. It's all Julie's. Julie is the reason that we are here today because Julie is the one who introduced me to Achieve TV. So thank you, Julie.
You're very welcome. Thanks for joining the team.
So before we get started, just a little bit more about Julie. She is getting ready. Are you ready for this?
I'm getting married.
Married, but get married. I have to get you some boxing gloves for your wedding.
3 weeks, 3 weeks. We're down to the wire.
Oh, all right. And so, okay, what do the dogs have to say about it?
Well, the one on the left is my Murphy, and the one on the right is Zeke. He is my nephew.
So I bet you things are pretty crazy around your house.
Yeah, there's a lot going on. Obviously, the wedding's a big deal. And for those of you who aren't familiar, Ev and I met through Achieve Systems, which is an amazing group of entrepreneurs who want to build business together. And so we have a conference coming up next week. So we got the wedding. And then unfortunately, I found out my kitty has a tumor. So we're waiting until Saturday to find out if there's anything we can do to help him. Fingers crossed.
Oh, I am so sorry.
Yeah, he's only 2.
Fur babies are a part of our family. And,
Absolutely.
I don't trust anybody who doesn't love a fur baby.
I'm a little suspicious. I'm not going to lie. It's okay if you don't have any, but if you're kind of leery of them, I'm like, what? Are you okay?
It's like I have to take a second look at you. Now, I'm really excited because you help people deal with life transformations. And, it's kind of funny because I never knew this about you, but one more, you are quite the adventure seeker. Now,
Yes, I am.
okay, so you actually jumped out of an airplane.
For my 40th birthday, yes. You can't really see it because it's hard to tell, but I still have some blue hair left in that picture. Blue hair, and on the left, I think I didn't even have a year sober yet. So in that picture, so it's been like that.
That's amazing to me. So going from, I like how you introduce that. You were a year sober, and now you have all these adventures. You're getting married. We're going to see each other at Achieve. By the way, if you would like to meet Julie or meet me in person, we will be in Denver on June 9th and 10th at the Achieve conference. I still have a few VIP tickets, so call me. But Julie, we started yesterday with, Shauna Cullen, who's also a part of the Achieve family. And she went over some of her story of dealing with anxiety, depression, sobriety. And she shared with us her story and some of the tricks, or not tricks, but tips she uses in stressful times. Right now, you are in a stressful time.
Yes, absolutely. It might be all good, but it's extremely stressful. There's so much change going on that it just affects everything. So, yeah, I mean, people don't talk about that. Even good stuff can be stressful.
So people don't like to talk about what they went through. But when we share what we've gone through, there are people here today on the broadcast who may be struggling. As a matter of fact, I happen to know somebody called me. I talked to somebody immediately after the show yesterday who said, wow, I was so inspired. I so get it because they're dealing with many of the same issues: anxiety, depression,
Hmm.
um, suicide. And tell us your story. How did you get from there to here?
Oh, I have a wild story. Like most people who suffered from addiction, actually, I've never been to jail, so that's kind of unusual.
That's good.
Yes, fortunately, I probably should have been a couple of times, but fortunately that didn't happen with me. I'm kind of an interesting sort of person because I literally have seen addiction from about every single side you can imagine. I grew up in an alcoholic household. My brother died of alcoholism 9 years ago.
I am so
Um,
sorry.
yeah. Actually, we're coming up on his death anniversary. I think it's today. But
Oh,
anyway,
wow.
yeah, it's
We lost
actually
a daughter.
how poetic, right? I try not to remember the exact day because it's not a great thing to remember, but I knew better than to become an alcoholic. So imagine my surprise when, I decided to start dealing with my anxiety, my depression, my nerves, my all the things that a lot of people struggle with by drinking. And, you know, and I, to finish my thought, the other part of it is I've actually worked in addiction recovery for, there we go.
I was the wrong button. Sorry.
That's okay. I was saying that I actually worked in addiction recovery for over 6 years. So, I've seen how it is for all sides of people, whether you're the family member, the person struggling with it, all the things, trying to help people. I've lost ex boyfriends to it, countless friends. But my story is similar and dissimilar to everybody else. I drank too much. And, the thing that people don't really think about is that there's a reason why behind the drinking. So for me, that was my coping mechanism. And it became this vicious cycle where I had to drink because I didn't want to feel bad about drinking. So it was not a fun experience for me. And it's not for anybody. People think that it's, selfish, and, alcoholics and drug addicts do things like lie, steal, and cheat. Yes, this is very true. But for the person in the addiction, it feels necessary to survive. Is that actually true? No, it's not. But that's what it feels like when you're going through it. So, I could tell you, I mean, literally came so close to dying, so close. My body was shutting down. I was so weak that I couldn't even walk to the bathroom to go to the bathroom. I mean, it was just so awful. I don't even know what happened. One time I passed out on the street. I wasn't drinking, but it could have been, I'm sure it was alcohol related. And I ended up in a trauma ER because I smacked my head on the cement so hard. And I didn't even know there was a trauma ER until I until I was in there. But I did all these things that I'm not proud of. I stole from my boyfriend at the time, and he passed away as well. He was such a sweet soul and so good to me, and he never ever gave up on me. In fact, I'm the last person he talked to before he passed away. But the thing is that it didn't work for me anymore. The alcohol didn't numb anything. I felt awful. I just, as they say, there's all these cliches in addiction, like I'm sick and tired of being sick and tired. Yes, That is absolutely true. I was 100% sick and tired of being sick and tired. I was fortunate enough to be able to go to rehab. So my parents paid for me to go to rehab. And, I'm what they call a unicorn. I was a one and done, in and out, and stayed sober since. That's extremely unusual. I did 30 days inpatient, and then I did 30 days outpatient, and I stayed in sober living for almost a year. So, and then I started working in addiction recovery right after that. I've been sober on July 9th. It'll be 9 years. Wait, is it the 9th? The 6th. On the 6th, it'll be 9 years. I don't even remember. Yeah. I mean, for me, I'm going to say something that's really unpopular, but this is my truth. And to me, it's not a big deal that I quit drinking. To me, it's a big deal that I started living. Like quitting something is,
I like that.
I actually can sit in my feelings, like the uncomfortableness of not knowing what's going to happen next, the not knowing like what's going to happen. I've got wedding stuff that's coming up. My cat is sick. I mean, there's all these things that I have to wait for the answers. Whereas before I would automatically drink. Now I don't do that. Now it is a matter of breathing and saying yes to life. Because if you allow life to happen, you start to realize that things are happening for you as opposed to you. Now, does that mean that I like everything that happens to me? Absolutely not. There are so many things that I find repulsive that happen. However, I can always find the silver lining in everything that does happen. And, being able to open up about how awful it was for me. I mean, it was awful. It really was. But if you actually want to get sober, you can, and it doesn't have to look a certain way. And I did the traditional way because I didn't know any other way. I just didn't. There's like this paradigm out there that it's rehab and AA, and that's what you have. And if you go to AA, then people there will tell you if you stop going, you're going to die. So it's,
it's basically a curse.
Well, here's the thing, like AA works and I'm never, ever going to put it down. It's not for me. And part of that is you have to announce yourself as an alcoholic. I haven't had a drink in years. I have no desire to. I don't consider myself an alcoholic. I had a drinking problem. I drank like an alcoholic. I am not one now. What do alcoholics do? They drink. So for me to announce that I'm an alcoholic would be like saying I'm a drinker. I don't drink. I don't play with Barbies anymore. So am I a recovering Barbie player, So I try and take some of the sting out of it because, even in the big book, as they call it, there's a line that says we do recover. And so allow me to recover. I'm recovered. So that's kind of, I don't ever want to put down anybody's struggle because when you are in it, it is so awful. Like there's things that people don't talk about. Like when I first got sober, I didn't even know what to wear, like what kind of clothes to wear. Who am I? What do I like? I had no idea. How am I supposed to spend my free time now that I'm not going to the bar? Who am I supposed to spend my time with now that I can't hang out with those friends anymore because we have nothing in common? People, what do I even like anymore? Do I know how to go on a date sober? Do I know how to do any of these things? It was like being a little child as an adult because, I had to relearn everything, absolutely everything. And, there's this idea that once you get sober, everything's going to be better. Well, here's the thing is, yes, it is better, but it's not easier for a while. And that's okay because it is so much better once you get through and over the hump, get some sobriety under your belt and you start to feel like a human being again.
So for you, what was there a defining moment when you said, I'm done. I need help?
Yes and no. There's this one moment that really sticks out in my mind because I've always been adventurous. I've lived in foreign countries. I've done all sorts of things where I'm not afraid to go and do the unexpected or even the socially weird, like not getting married.
Like jumping out of a perfectly good airplane.
Yeah, perfect. Or not getting married till I'm 45, not having children. I mean, I did not take the normal route at all. And I just remember sitting, and I lived with my boyfriend. I mean, we'd been together for a decade, so it's not like, and I should say, he put up with me for a decade. I remember sitting on the futon, literally a futon in the TV room, and watching TV, and I was sitting on the corner of it. And I remember looking around this tiny little room and sitting on a futon and thinking to myself, holy crap, I'm afraid to get off this futon. I am spending my entire life sitting in this one spot on a futon. I went from living abroad in Italy, from sneaking across the border to live in Canada, all these different things, adventures. I mean, I've traveled to Morocco. I've climbed the high Atlas Mountains, gone trekking. I've done all sorts of things. And now all I can do is sit on this futon. That's it. That's all I can do. And so for me, that was like the major point. I didn't get sober right then, but I did get sober shortly after my brother died.
So we lost our daughter to alcohol 2 years ago, and it's sobering because people don't realize what a lifestyle of alcoholism does to the body. And I find it interesting that you've gone from this lifestyle to now a health coach, which is exactly what Shauna did yesterday. It was like, okay, it seems as if you have put all of your effort. I always say, because I have been an alcohol counselor for 30 years. If people would put as much effort into living sober as they do into hiding their addiction, most alcoholics are amazing people. You have totally dedicated your life to healthy living and helping others. How did that come about?
I'm not strange. I mean, look at Shauna, right? It's kind of like, where do you want to focus this intense attention? Where do you want to focus it? As opposed to hiding my drinking and figuring out where I'm going to get my next drink and how I'm going to drink it without people knowing about it, all that stuff. I mean, it takes a lot of brain power to figure out how to do that. Like you said, people totally underestimate people with drinking problems and drug addicts, because it takes a lot to stay alive while you're living that lifestyle. So for me, I'd always had a fascination with living, to the best of my ability. Even back then, I used to love watching this show, Extreme Weight Loss. And the reason why I loved it was because they talk about the mental health aspects behind the reason why these people were gaining weight. I used to watch that show while eating pizza. I don't know. That's kind of like how I was with health when I was drinking. I loved it, but I wasn't doing it. But then it sort of turned into this thing where I needed to make a living amends. And almost all the people that I love and cared about as an adult, significant others, good friends, most of them have passed away. And most of them did not have drug and alcohol problems. So I was sitting there, this sort of survivor's guilt, like, how are you dead and I'm still alive when I made these awful choices in my life and you were the most fabulous person and kind-hearted and all these things, and I just wasn't? How come I'm still alive? I better freaking do something with my life that makes a difference. I got to make up for all those years I spent unconscious. All those years I was just waking up and surviving the day. And if I can make it through that dark time and thrive, everybody can, because there's nothing in me that isn't in everybody else. And I know that people say this, it's so hard when you're in it because it doesn't feel possible, but it really comes down to this decision of, I'm not going to drink ever again, no matter what, period. And that's really what it was for me. So once I did that, I was like, okay, Now I gotta figure out how I'm gonna help other people. And that's really how it all started. I mean, I've been studying nutrition and exercise and all that for so long. It's not even funny, but to make a career out of it, it just made the most sense because that's what I know and that's what I love. And if I can help somebody else, then that's what I want to do.
So what do you say to the person who says and dealing and helping people through their addictions to sobriety? Mm-hmm. Well, what happens when I go out? I can just have, I am not an alcoholic, so I can drink. I'm not going back there. What do you say to someone who says that to you?
Do you mean somebody who's literally had a problem with alcohol?
Yes.
Here's the thing. I know lots of people who have. I know a lot of people who have gone back to drinking at some point. I don't recommend it because what if you are not okay? Do you really want to start all over again? That's the thing you've got to think about. Now, the tricky, sticky part of drinking again after you've had, an addiction issue is that your brain will tell you you're fine, but there's a good chance that you won't be. Now, I happen to know for myself that if I were to drink again, I would be okay. That being said, it would destroy my dad. It literally almost destroyed me. I don't need to put poison inside my body. You know what I'm saying? So for me, I'm not even going to go there. And I always ask myself, what if? For me, the best way for just to deal with it was to completely take it off the table. Instead of maybe someday I'm going to drink again, I said, you know what? Never. If I ever start drinking again, I'm never going to try stopping. And it just took it off the table for me. I was like, okay, there's no should I or shouldn't I, because that takes up a lot of mental power. Maybe I could have just one, maybe you can, but what if you can't? Do you really want to start all over again? And as somebody who has had these nightmares where I started drinking again and had to go back to rehab, it was devastating. And I woke up and I'm like, I'm still sober.
So you don't have dreams about being naked in front of the classroom. It's about being
drunk. Yeah. And thinking, crap, I have to go back to rehab. I never want to do that again. It was an awful experience. I hated it. So yeah. But that being said, I was blessed enough to be able to go. So I don't want to put it down, but I never, ever want to do it again.
I hear you. And I hope if you're out there, you hear too. So we're going to pause for a minute. We're going to take a commercial break. And as always, I say, please support our sponsors and those who support this show because they are the reason that we are here. They make it possible for us to be here. And you're going to recognize one of our sponsors.
I'm Steve Corey, founder and executive director of Victory Service Dogs. Victory Service Dogs is a 501c3 nonprofit. We were started 7 years ago by my wife and I, and we wanted to find a way to give back to our local disabled veterans.
Hello, my name is David Marino. I'm a retired Marine Gunnery Sergeant. I'm here today at Victory Service Dogs with my Golden Retriever, who is my current service dog, Gunner. Gunner's 2.5 years old, and I've had him since he was 10 weeks old.
Here at Victory Service Dogs, we train their owners to train their dogs to be service dogs. So we just facilitate people learning how to become service dog handlers. You can put a little bit of weight on him for a few steps. Hi, my name is Lance Kalahar. I've been working at Victory Service Dogs for about 3 years. I've been the head trainer for a year now, and I really love working here because dogs are capable of doing so much good in the world that I'm happy to facilitate a relationship between a psychiatric service dog and a veteran that needs help.
Welcome back. We are here with Julianne Meyer, and we're discussing, she's sharing with us her journey to sobriety and her living life instead of giving up. And what can you say to, we were talking about if I should choose to drink again. Alcohol, and you said it very clearly, is a toxin.
Mm-hmm.
And can you explain what that people think, oh, it, I feel good. It gives me courage. Speak to that.
It lowers our inhibitions. That's what it does. But as far as actually, helping us, it really doesn't. I mean, I used to use the excuse of, oh, I can't sleep because I really had a lot of sleep issues, and it helps me sleep. It helps me pass out. It doesn't actually help me sleep. There's all these things that we can tell ourselves about something that we know is not good for us, but you're ruining your brain. You could do permanent damage to yourself. I mean, it's just not worth it. Why would you knowingly put a toxin into your body when you could possibly feel exactly the same way if you learn the skills without doing that? So, it comes down to how much do you love yourself? How much are you willing to, brush your teeth when you don't feel like it? It's kind of like you have to start parenting yourself, because just because I want to do it doesn't mean it's good for me, even though there's stuff out there that will try and tell us that it is, like a glass of wine a day, but it depends who's doing that study. And, wouldn't water still be better than wine? So, yeah, I mean, alcohol, we all know, is a toxin. So it really that is what it is. There's nothing more to it than that. So, that's the end of that. It's just, you can lie to yourself about it, but it's a toxin.
I have found you can always tell when someone has made it. First thing is, number one, they'll take responsibility.
Mm-hmm.
And number two, they say, I'm done. It's not like I'm going to try. It's I'm done. I'm taking responsibility. Once you make that decision, I'm done. What's the next step?
It looks different for everyone. For me, I went to rehab because that's what I thought I needed. Looking back now, I could have done it a million different ways. But I like to think of it as the AED paddles. It was like, the little jump start to my life. But honestly, that's all it was. Most people make the mistake of thinking, I'm going to go to rehab, I'll be cured, and I can go back to my life. So not how it works. You literally have to show up for yourself differently. So learning those skills, however that looks, then that's what it is. You need to ask for help of some sort. You need to, number one, stop. I mean, like you said, you make the decision to stop. There's just no ifs, ands, or buts about it. You're done. That's it. Like for me, it was just off the table. I've had 2 cravings in 9 years. That's it. One time was in rehab. So it's like, it is possible that, it doesn't have to look like you're struggling every moment. Now, AA works, NA works. Like I said, don't care for it. A lot of people like Celebration Recovery. But here's the thing this is why it works. And this is what you need to look for if that doesn't work for you. One, don't give up just because you go to some sort of meeting and an old timer, they're called old timers if they have some time under their belt, if they are dismissive of you or rude, or because there's so many people, they think they know better, and it can be very uninviting if you're trying to ask for help and you're being treated a certain way. But here's the other thing that happens with AA and NA is, I'll give you a perfect example. I was in a toxic living situation, and my boyfriend at the time had started using again. And so I needed to move out right then. I had nowhere to go. I had no way to move, and I had to figure it out right away because I couldn't stay in that situation. Literally, somebody I just met said, "Hey, you can come live with me until you figure it out." Just met her. She's actually coming to my wedding. And then another person, there's like 3 people from AA who literally helped me move. They didn't know me, and they helped me move on like at the drop of a hat. So the wonderful thing about these types of groups is that sense of community where they will come for you. If you need help, you can get it there. Like, I could walk in. I haven't been to a meeting in I don't even know how many years, but if I were to walk into one right now and ask for some assistance, you better believe there's going to be people with their hands raised up who are going to help me. And, that is what's absolutely wonderful about these meetings. So if you can find a community of people that can support you, then that's half the battle, because we feel so much shame and like we're the only ones who've ever done this, because, we're looking at it through our own eyes. Now, I want to share this because this was like the best experience that I had in rehab. And it was this thing where we sat in it, and there's a lot of us. There's like 45 girls. And we sat in a huge circle in chairs. It was like, musical chairs in a way. One person stood in the center of the circle and said something they did in their addiction. And then every other person who did the same thing stood up, and they had to go and find a seat somewhere else. And the last person standing had to say something that they did in their addiction. Well, let me tell you, we would say the most horrific things that we thought we could think of. And there was at least 3, 4 to 10, 15 other people who had done exactly the same thing that we had done. So it was this nice feeling of, oh my gosh, I'm not alone. I am not the most awful human being on the face of the earth. So being able to open up about these things is absolutely fabulous. If you need a therapist, ask for one. Go find one. Find one that you can open up to and share your secrets with, because there's another saying in AA, we're as sick as our secrets, So you can't keep that stuff bottled up, man. You got to let it out. But not everybody gets to hear your story in the beginning. You've got to be careful with yourself, your heart. You want to be able to share it, but you don't have to spray it out to everybody, because you will get rejected and take that in and internalize that. I've seen it happen so many times. It's not even funny, but it's just a matter of learning how to cope with being inside your body with those uncomfortable feelings. It's like I know what it's like. You feel itchy. It's like, oh my gosh, let me get away from myself. I still get like that sometimes, but now I can sit in it. It takes practice. It's like you don't have to run away from everything that's uncomfortable. You can't, or you die, or you get institutionalized, or you go to jail. These are the things that happen to people with addiction issues. And most of them have happened to me.
I see, when I look at your own wellness, when I see Julie Ann Meyer, coach, nutritionist, what I see is you have created around yourself a support system by supporting others. I always say that forgiveness, brings redemption, but serving brings healing.
It does. You know, that's like the most important part, because when you are so busy focusing on yourself, everything seems, and when, especially when you're really low, feeling really low about yourself and about your situation, that's a good indication that you're thinking about yourself too much. And it's a fabulous time to go out and do something for somebody else. Now, for me, you know, for a long time, I worked in addiction recovery. So the last thing I wanted to do was volunteer with humans, because I worked helping humans as my day job. So for about 7 years, even in my addiction, I would go to the, you know, the cattery, it's called, and clean litter boxes and clean litter boxes for the homeless cats. So that were looking for homes. So, you know, that just helped me, because I was doing something for somebody else that nobody else wanted to do. Because who wants to clean kitty crud, you know?
There has to be something in that, some.
You know, but it just felt so good to do something to take care of another being and do something for another being that they couldn't do for themselves. And it helped build my self-esteem back up, because I wasn't just thinking about myself. I did what I said I was going to do. I showed up on time, you know, all these things that you have to start building up your self-confidence and your self-respect and your self-worth once you're trying to get back to and better than who you ever were before.
You know, people will say, well, I want you to mentor me. And my first thing is, well, did I send them to clean the bathroom? Because unless you are willing to submit to the bottom, you will never make it to the top. And I just love that you just did it naturally. And
I mean, I've always been one to do that. I've almost always had a volunteer job, because like I said, that this idea of wellness has always been with me. I lost my way because it became quicker to feel better faster if I drank, until it didn't anymore. And, you know, and it became this thing where it was a compulsion. And whenever it's a compulsion, it's time to walk away. So, you know, and then you got to be careful too, because there's escapism behaviors that still haunt all of us. How often do you hop on your phone and then 3 hours later, after you've watched 700 reels, do you realize, oh my gosh, I haven't done what I said I was going to do? Or Netflix, you know, sitting there watching that, you know, binge watching. You know, when you get to the end of your life, you're not going to sit there and say, thank goodness I saw the season finale of blah, 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 you know? So you got to think about how you want to. Hey, Robert.
Hey, Robert. And we never do that when we're supposed to be doing our A5, guaranteed.
No, never. I've never done that.
You need to come visit us up in Denver next Friday and Saturday.
Yes. But yeah, you know, it's just one of those things where it's just saying yes to life, whatever it brings your way. It's like, I think back and, you know, that fear factor, there's such a fear and everybody has it. They say they're not afraid, they're lying. It's just a little more sneaky with them and they don't realize that that's what it is. But like I said, for me, it was like to the point where I couldn't even get off the futon. That's how bad it was for me. But now it's like, if I find myself procrastinating, it's like, what am I actually afraid of? Am I afraid somebody's going to reject me somehow? Am I afraid, you know, and it's who's ever died from somebody saying no? I mean, you know, it's like you got to really shine the light in the darkness to be able to tell that there's no monsters there. So if you're willing to sit there and actually look at your stuff, look at your fear, you realize it's not as bad as you thought that it was, because you shine the light on it. Nothing is as scary in the light.
Totally like that. Bringing light to the darkness. I also like the fact that when we are able to admit our faults, when we are able to bring our darkness out for others to see in the world, according to Eva, I believe that is when we have truly conquered that demon, that darkness, that problem in our lives. How do you
You
have?
know, for me, I love what you're saying. And I used to feel exactly the same way. Now I'm to the point where I'm not trying to fight or conquer anything as much as I'm trying to befriend the things that are all of me. Like, I don't try and make myself wrong for those things. I accept them. And it's amazing how once I fully accept that, it sort of falls away. I mean, we're saying the same thing differently. You know, it's just the way that I think about it, because words have power. You know, like if I were to say I'm an alcoholic, what do alcoholics do? They drink. I don't consider myself one, you know? I mean, I was absolutely 100% an alcoholic, 100%, but not anymore. And, you know, that's not a popular thing to say. But, you know, I've befriended all the darkness until it pops up again. There's something else that I feel like I'm fighting against. And then I realize, okay, but if I accept it, you know, because what you resist persists. So same idea. Like, I just want to become friends with something. So it takes the power away from it. It's not as powerful if I'm not trying to beat it up.
I totally believe you and I are very much alike in the fact of when working with people who are dealing with addictions. I have a problem with I am an alcoholic or I am an addict once they have conquered that, because you speak the word and give it life. Mm-hmm. And so my saying was all, I am healthy, I am sober, I am what I am now, not what you were in the past, because you don't live there anymore.
Exactly. Like I said, you know, I don't play with Barbies either, you know? So it's not.
I had a great Barbie collection.
Oh, me too. I loved them. It was so much fun. You know, but that's the thing. It's like, in the beginning, I needed to admit that to myself because I was in denial about, you know, how bad it really was. And it took me years of sobriety to really even realize how bad I was and how close to death I really was. You know, it took me having to say and admit that, yes, I am an alcoholic when I was one, because I wasn't willing to admit it. I knew that at some point I'd be able to fix it. And so I figured that meant that I wasn't an alcoholic. But not everybody has that experience. And, you know, and I was one. And it took me a long time to admit how awful of a human being I was acting like, because not that I was an awful human being, but I was acting like one. I was not acting like myself. I was acting out of character and doing things that I would never even dream of doing now or even think of doing at this point in my life. So, you know, you got to meet people where they are and also speak that healthiness, that life into them. Because if I always look at somebody as being a recovering or recovered alcoholic, I am not giving them the space to grow into who they want to become. I am not helping them evolve into the best version of themselves. So I don't necessarily like to celebrate my sobriety birthday, because I feel like that's celebrating for everyone else. That is celebrating me not doing something that was harmful to me. How often, you know, why isn't there a quit cigarettes birthday? You know, why, you know, there's all these things. So why not it be a celebration of life versus the funeral? You know what I mean? So I just want to be able to support people into who they can be, because they may not be able to see it yet themselves. So what I like to do, and this is how I help a lot of people, is be a mirror of the best version of who they could possibly be, so that they can see it in themselves. Because once they start to see it, they start to become it. They start to move towards that direction. Even if they pick a different version, whatever, it's a lot better than what they're thinking about themselves in their head at that particular moment. So that's kind of like, you know, I just want them to be in possibility instead of running away from.
I find that we always say, I'm going to teach you. Which usually is I'm going to tell you what to do. And it's actually a very, I'm a believer. You're a believer. Biblical principle of, let's speak the word. Let's teach. But that word teach actually means to live a lifestyle that people can emulate and respect and learn from.
Yeah.
And that's what you do.
Yeah. And that's the thing is, my best friend and I, we actually met working together in a rehab, and, and she actually went through that particular rehab. And, we have this, she and I, this is probably one of the reasons why she's my bestie. We have this thing where nobody really ever talks about the rest of the people who had addiction issues that don't go to AA, that never went to rehab, that actually quit and changed their lives. And nobody else even talks about the people who don't have addiction issues but act like they do, because it's a mental mindset, it's a way of being and showing up for yourself, or lack thereof, that is the same whether you're drinking or not. You've heard the term dry drunk before. I know a lot of dry drunks that have never actually touched alcohol. You know what I'm saying? Because it's like this blame everybody, woe is me, I'm the victim, and everything is happening to me, wham, 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 but like
not get sober.
Yeah. Oh yeah. But I mean, it's just, that's the mentality, and whether or not you've ever drank has little to do with it. It's just, that's what causes the drinking in most alcoholics, is that mentality, and like you said, taking responsibility. 100% responsibility for yourself and your actions and your life. Yeah, sometimes things happen to me, but it's up to me how I'm going to respond.
Okay, we have 2 minutes. I'd like you to speak to the 2 minutes, give us a wrap up, and speak to people who are dealing with this issue.
If you are struggling with addiction, if you think that you have an issue, this is actually more for the people who are like, do I really have an issue? If you're questioning if you have an issue, then you do. And it's something that it's okay. You're not alone. You're not a freak. There's so many more people out there you have no idea that are struggling. You are definitely not alone. And you just need to find some people that you can connect with who are sober. So instead of thinking about what you don't want, like you don't want to drink anymore, you don't want to use drugs anymore, what do you want for your life? And start moving in that direction. Find yourself a support system. It could be AA. I did that for a long time and it worked. It just, until I got myself going. It taught me the principles of life, basically. It doesn't have to look a certain way. And you just really have to know for yourself what's going to work for you. And don't give up. No matter what, don't give up. There's going to be hard days. You just don't drink. You just don't use. If you're struggling, call someone. Get out of your head and into your body. Go exercise. Go do something for somebody else. Be of service. All these things about being a good person, they help you. You can't pour from an empty cup. You know what I'm saying? So whatever that looks like for you, I want you to just ask for the help that you need. And whatever that looks like, just go for it. Never, ever, ever give up and keep moving forward. If something doesn't work, try something else and keep trying something else until it does.
You were created for greatness. You were created to do marvelous things. You were created to go out and change the world and make it a better place. So today's a great day to get started. Julianne Meyer, thank you so much for honoring us with your presence. I hope you have I know you will have a wonderful wedding. We are praying for Kitty. Kitty is healed. We declare it, decree it, and proclaim it in the name of Jesus that Kitty is healed. And I can't wait to see you next week. So if you're going to be in the Denver area next Friday and Saturday, you need to come and be inspired. And you might get to see, well, you will get to see Julianne, you'll get to see myself, and maybe, just maybe, your story might end up and you might be a one punch superstar. So until next week, we'll see you on Tuesday. Bye bye now.